Today we have with us Dr. Rex Payas Prabhu, who is the Executive Director of Medical Services, Swan Hill Hospital, Australia. Dr. Rex, welcome to National Medical Specialties Summit.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sajan. Great honor to be here and represent medical administration and management today.
It's a pleasure to have you, Dr. X. Just to give a glimpse of what the entire program is about. Basically, we are creating a set of sequence of events where we talk to the consultants themselves. For example, in this case, we have hospital administration, right? Which is an area which most of the students would not be exposed to. Making a decision on that would be very difficult unless they have an idea of what goes through being in that area. No, giving them the practical and experienced view of a consultant they would be able to make an informed decision on that. Right. So with that, no, let's go with our discussion. Dr. Rex, how did you choose to be in the administrative field? Because no, it is not a normal concept for every medical student to look into the medical administrative sector. So many of them would like to be in the clinical aspects, clinical field, and the specialties and all those things. How did you get into this particular field, and what was the pathway? Or just give us a glimpse of it.
I think it was a mixture of the qualities that I had as a person in my undergraduate days, that
Mm-hmm.
includes organizing our college festivals and things like that. And I think going back in time and reminding myself of those memories, I think that's where that opportunity to be a leader and organize things came naturally to me. And then fast forward, after working in the health sector for a couple of years after internship and moving to Australia and doing a master's in health management and a master's in public health, that gave me, I guess, the theoretical knowledge of what it takes to be an administrator, understanding, I think, subject, I got some subject matter expertise with that formal education. And
Mm-hmm.
then I think it became a natural translation over time, that I felt the burning desire that I've got these skills, I've got this knowledge, and I've got to put them together.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe maybe by writing a policy I can save hundreds of lives when one doctor saves one life. And so that bigger picture, that burning desire, pushed me towards medical administration. And in Australia, medical administration is a subspecialty on its own. It's an end specialty. And I entered training a couple of years ago, and now I'm nearly completing my fellowship in medical administration here.
Mm-hmm.
While working as a full-time executive medical director of medical services
Mm-hmm.
in a sub-regional hospital here in Victoria.
Wow. That's a novel thought process what you have gone through, and I really appreciate that. Being in this particular field for so many years now, what has been the pros of being in the medical administration field?
I think it's a very challenging specialty, if you might say. One might think, oh, okay, it's someone sitting in an office um, and managing things, but it's really opposite to that. If you're an administrator, you're always on the floor. You are challenged every day by different situations, and
Mhm.
it's in a way utilizing the medical and clinical knowledge that you know, your skill, your judgment, and then making a good decision on the health and safety of the public. And this might be by managing a hospital, or by managing a service, or by even managing a bigger area health network. So the opportunities are quite wide, and the specialties that you go into, so you might go into medical legal stuff, so you might be involved in indemnity persons. If something's gone wrong with the doctor, you might provide them that a legal advice of what to do at that point of time.
Mhm.
Or you might on another day develop a new program that does not exist in your facility, or
Right.
it might involve looking at new technology or the implementation of new technology in healthcare so that it's safe for patients, or it might look at um, developing efficiencies or real good parameters in finance or efficiencies in patient care and outcomes. At the end of the day, I think we all draw that fine line that we are here for patient safety and we are here for the best patient outcome. And that's where my role has day-to-day challenges, but it really comes down to how you perceive your specialty and how progressive you can be in your role.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's, I think we got a lot of insight there in the beginning itself, right? So got that. So now, no, looking into the, we looked into the pros of it. So meanwhile, what are the cons of being in this particular specialty?
Look, I think medical administration is very wide, and no area is the same. I mean, even if you take X versus X, there are so many variables. X hospital versus Y hospital, there are so many variables because at the end of the day, we are dealing with people, and we work with people, and people can be very different from day to day. It depends on what's going on in their personal lives, what's going on in their work life, how relationships tend to change in the workplace. And so it's all about, I guess, collaboration, managing different stakeholders that come to you with different needs, or their priorities are different. And I think as an administrator, sometimes it's a hard call because you have to make those tough decisions, and those decisions are made with both your heart and your mind. You can't take any pathway in these situations. So I think some of the tougher decisions that clinicians don't make, administrators do on their behalf. So that's always going to be a challenge. And so being prepared and being trained in a particular fashion will help you, because at the end of the day, health management is a science. It's a well studied science, and there is obviously the patient at the center of the care. And so your decisions are always focused on the patient. But in a public um, sector situation where we know that the finance in healthcare is not infinite, we've got limited resources. So bringing that public health hat and saying what is equitable to patient X, should we pay $1 million for a treatment to a 80-year-old patient, or should we use that $1 million to improve the lives of 40-year-olds, to improve their livelihood to 70 years with a different medication. So these are some examples I give to say that it can be quite challenging because of um, the finance burden in healthcare. We're always struggling to find the right dollar value. Challenging in terms of I guess people's personalities, because as a medical administrator, you're there to performance manage them. You're there to have those difficult conversations. Um, Managing challenges in organization, process design, and process management. Um, it's not all bad. The good things out of that is that you've got a supportive team. You work in a team environment. If you're the director of medical services, there's always a director of nursing care, there's always a CEO. And we work in a team, we work in an executive team, making sure that we reach our goals. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of collaboration and team support, working in the health system. And there's always help outside the organization. If hospital Y is doing something brilliantly, we'll go down and ask them what's working well, why is it working well, let's bring that to our hospital. um, and so I think that constant challenge is always there in medical administration. But at the end of the day, I think the pleasing point of it is that you feel happy, you know, that you've grown a service from where it was here and now it's gone there. And so that gives you a good feeling. And I guess the networks, because medical professionals, we are quite united. So I might be good friends with the director in another hospital, and so we've got good relationships there. And you develop good relationships with clinicians from other hospitals when you go down for meetings and things like that. So you build a broad network of friends and people. But obviously, there's going to be those challenges of making those tough decisions every single day.
Right. Very well. So, of course, as I said, it's entirely about the team and the team game. Of course, the patient being at the center of the entire decision making, right? So now, no, you said no. One of the reason why you, I think, you got inclined towards this particular administration specialty is because of the leadership which you had. So now, looking into the our students who are watching this, for whom do you think would be the ideal choice to choose medical administration as a specialty?
I think a combination of personal attributes,
Mhm.
because that makes a person who can, you know, communicate really well. Um, Good communication skills, not just interpersonal skills, but also able to communicate widely, verbally as well as orally. So, you know, able to write a good essay, because you know sometimes you've got to write reports, and those reports have to be well articulated so that they, you know, give the right message to the right person. So I think the strength of having good communication skills, being a good person at the end of the day. So, you know, the importance of being a friend to a colleague when they are in difficulty, um, and also a mixture of, as I said, um, it'd be great if doctors. So the thing with medical administration, there's two um, types of doctors that get into medical administration: the younger cohort who are now making early steps into medical administration, who are taking medical administration as their first career straight away. And then there is the cohort of practitioners who have completed their clinical careers and then are making a transition towards administration and management. There's
Right.
pros and cons to both of this. um, and I guess for me as an early career administrator, I'm pushing for the younger generation to come forward to pursue medical administration as a career, because um, we see in outside healthcare, if you think of the Fortune 500 companies or the biggest companies in the tech sector, you've got college dropouts who are running um, you know, big companies. But in healthcare, unfortunately, there's no push for youngsters to come into medical administration straight away. And I think for every student out there, it's about making a choice. Can I pursue this dream and take it to the next level? Because the opportunities are endless in medical administration. There's so many vacant jobs, even in India, in many hospitals as clinical superintendents, in the public sector. Um, there's a lot of private jobs that cohortly nobody steps into. They lie vacant, and there's no strong science, or I say curriculum, in medical administration yet, apart from a few hospitals that are now providing degrees in hospital administration. Um, and even overseas, the global situation is that there's very few doctors managing doctors' business or healthcare. So um, as a doctor, you get these communication skills through your clinical years, and you slowly get that support to become a leader automatically. But you just have to translate that to a long-term career. And so I wouldn't say that anybody is off the mark. There's always an opportunity, and you always have to see the bright side. And I guess I think spending some time with some administrators, maybe a week, shadow them for a day or a week to see how their work goes on, what projects they work on, would be ideal for some doctors to spend some time, either in the public or private sector.
Got that. No, that's very well put there. No, because it's a specialty which most of the students are not exposed to, right? So, as you mentioned, you shadowing a administrator for a week, having an internship or observership for them would give a pretty good idea on what they're getting into, through the practical experience also, right? So now, once you are completed, for example, in India we have MD in hospital administration, right? So once someone completes the specialization of hospital administration, so other super specialty, or we call it as subspecialties, what other avenues or pathways can we take? Is there any niche core areas which we can take after that?
Look, medical administration on its own is a very diverse specialty. But look, yes, there are specializations. There are a lot of administrators out there who are now gaining legal qualifications. So there are some doctors who are training to do law, and then they get into the medical legal side of aspects. So that might include um, malpractice, managing malpractice claims, looking into settlements, medical negligence settlements, and so taking that route has become sub-specialization, super specialization. There are quite a few medical administrators who are getting into health planning and health design, workforce modeling. So these are some real specialities that people are going into. Um, the other aspects of health administration, there's always a research component. So you can always go into do getting a PhD through the university, doing research and take up an academic role. So it might be managing universities, might be managing medical schools. So there's all these aspects that you could get into. Plus, from a organization perspective, you can become a chief medical officer, you can be the clinical superintendent, become the CEO of a hospital or hospital chain in both the public and the private sector. You could become the chief health officer of the state, of the country, um, and be in different programs. So it's not just planning, it'll be medication safety, therapeutic goods. So it's such a wide specialty, clinical trials, it goes on and on. So everyone, I think every individual has the potential to carve their own super specialty if they want to. But again, it's not well defined at this point of time, like other specialties are. But there's always potential to make a mark for your own self.
So now, once you completed the specialization in hospital administration, so what are the career opportunities? It may be in India or abroad. Could you just give us a glimpse of it?
So I guess those the career opportunities straight away. I think in organizations that do have MD in hospital administration, many of the larger hospitals that offer this course involve their senior staff in improving the outcomes for patients in their large hospitals. Say, for example, the Manipal group, um, the Mahe group, they've all have medical administrators in their quality and safety unit. They've got administrators in their performance unit of the hospital, looking after not just financial performance but patient performance and clinician and doctor effectiveness and doctor performance. So we've come to an age where data is freely available in healthcare. So in this day and age, you can actually benchmark if Dr. X, who's doing 90 hip surgeries, has a better complication rate than Dr. Y, who's doing 10 surgeries a year. So, that kind of data is not yet released, but we do have access to that data in through various forums. So, I don't think the time will be far away where such data is going to be made public so that the consumer knows where to go and who to access. And I don't think the time is long. I hope and believe in the next 5 years, the consumer will have access to this information, and it'll change the field of medical administration completely. So the opportunities in India, starting from those opportunities just at the hospital level, in both public and private sector, and then one has to consider the department level, at the state level in terms of the public health units, the government hospitals that are in India that require clinical superintendents to work in, then moving on some other hospitals by state government and national government, like railway hospitals, the other hospitals that are around other public sectors, occupational health and safety, medical officers, and then moving on to organizations such as WHO, principal planning officers. So the scope or the opportunities are quite a bit, and including drug trials and research, public and private again, so many opportunities out there, and it will just take obviously that focus on getting the right career at the right time at the right place, and at the right timing. So I think the opportunities within India are quite a bit, and even a lot of opportunities overseas as well.
Yeah, so that's great to know. There are a lot of opportunities and it's growing, as you said. So now looking into the financial aspects, so what would be the earning potential? Now, could you just quantify that? Because it's an health administrative sector, so you don't have the clinical practice, which normally the doctors do in the hospital, and also they do it in the free time. So how do you, could you give us any idea on the earnings?
I think it's quite variable according to the person and the talent they
Mhm.
bring to the organization. And I guess when you start out as a clinical superintendent, I think the government sector salaries are pretty stable at around 50-55,000 in, I guess, in some states, whereas going up to nearly 1.5 lakh, 2 lakhs to other states, um, in within India. But again, that's just the public sector salaries paid for medical practitioners as of such. And then, depending on who you work for in the private sector, there's always opportunities for, you know, based on the company's performance, getting a few bonus or share options. And I know of a few chief medical officers working in corporate hospital structures who earn up to 1 crore, 1.5 crore, and up and earning more than that because they get a percentage of shares within the earning potential of these private organizations. So I guess in private hospital, doctors bring in revenue, and the role of the medical administrator is to ensure finances are used efficiently. And so there's that opportunity for negotiation in the private sector compared to the public sector. And so there's a wide variability of salaries and what you can earn, and the sky is the limit. If you're a CEO of a multinational, multi-site hospital, you might be earning much more than that.
Wow, that's great. Got it. So now, looking into the career of hospital administration, how do you see the work-life balance to be?
Um, I think as an administrator, when you go to a new place, you kind of gauge um, what the situation is, and then you map out a plan of building a team. So the stronger team you have, the less you have to manage. So the less involved you kind of get. But it's quite variable. So depending on your role, depending on the situation, but more often than other specialities, I can tell you that medical administration does have its downtime. Um, and so if I currently in my current role, I'm an executive on call once in 6 weeks. So if there's anything that the nursing managers cannot manage, the doctors on the floor cannot manage, I might get a phone call for any critical issue. um, but otherwise, because we're a bigger team, the six of us, I get rest of my weekends off with no phone calls, good downtime, and my I don't work night shift. So I think there are some real positives in medical administration. But again, um, you're always available to the health service, and I think that's the goal. You're always called to lead like a public sector officer. You're never offline. But I think it's important you develop that process of how to stay away when you're away, and make sure that you have a good holiday and come back when you have a good disconnect when you have to disconnect, and come back charged to the workplace when you should. So it depends on individual attributes, as well as, I guess, work related requirements and projects and management.
Got that. So now, looking into next 5 to 10 years, so how do you see the future of hospital administration would grow?
I think that the point that I made earlier is that we are in a data rich age where we've got data everywhere, and uh, people, the consumers of healthcare, are looking for transparency in the care that they get. And we are at the forefront of patient consumer engagement and experience. It's gone from making the patient having a good surgery to having a good overall experience from the time they walk into the hospital till the time they reach home. And so that has changed a lot of attributes in health management. And this means that there will be more need for good medical administrators in many areas, locally and internationally. So I see that the specialty is just going to grow exponentially, and medical officers are going to make inroads into health insurance companies sooner or later. um, they're going to make inroads in other aspects of your care, in terms of looking at the quality of care that their doctors are providing, um, and looking into obviously the efficiencies that healthcare provides. That we'll often look at, if hospital X is doing better than hospital Y, we will always investigate and try to translate that in our health services. So the next 5 years is exciting. I'm looking forward to how technology is going to change how we perceive healthcare. And you already know we're doing a lot of telehealth, and with COVID, that's grown exponentially on its own. So there's a lot of door to door services, a lot of technology that's breaking into healthcare, a lot of monitoring devices that people are getting, that can now be centrally connected to a server where somebody is managing a patient's care 50 kilometers away. So there's so much of disruption in technology in healthcare that it's going to all impact medical administration. And my personal feeling is that there's going to be lots of opportunities that doctors don't think of, because they are traditionally very focused on just the surgical sciences or the medical sciences, and then just get into specialities, but never think of what's out there and how they can influence great outcomes by just taking a back seat and leading and managing these groups of people.
Wow, right. So that's a great insight, Dr. X. So now, with all these things, we looked into a lot of academic works and know how what's your opinion and your experiences there. So now, I'd like to know more about you and your journey. So from the days of MBBS, how was it? Could you just give us a glimpse? And from there, what happened to reach current position, what you are?
I think after my MBBS and completing my internship, my dad was keen that I pursue some kind of education overseas, and he did not push me into any country. He just said, look, you should think about um, overseas education, and he said he would support me. And so um, the pathway to get into another country for a person who has no connection overseas was, I think the first step was getting into university, doing public health, because that's the journey I'd heard of many seniors in other colleges take, to get through USMLE, to get through Australian Medical Council. So I took that pathway. I applied to study as a public health student, but with the goal and intention to clear exams formally in whichever country I went into, and then get into the medical system. So I applied to Australia. I think the the reason Australia happened was that I got admission into Australia before the universities in US could respond, and so I took the first chance of whatever I got accepted to, and moved here. Following that, I worked as a research officer. That was a university kind of position that I got during my university studies, and subsequently, while I was studying in university, I cleared my AMC exams, which is the Australian Medical Council exams, and that gave me an opportunity to work as a medical officer here for a couple of years. um, After a while, I got that desire to get into administration. I spoke to a few senior administrators here who were pretty pleased that I had already got formal qualifications by then in health management as well, because following my post graduation in public health, I took on another masters of health management, and that actually pushed me towards enrolling in the College of Medical Administrators. And my first role as a medical administrator was in Sydney, at Manly and Mona Vale hospitals, being the assistant director of medical services. And it was a tough time for that hospital because they were moving from a old hospital to a brand new hospital. So they were transitioning two hospitals to one new facility. So that experience, I think, gave me the learnings of a lifetime. So learning how to, because hospitals are built once in 100 years, um, and that opportunity really gave me the skills to continue my work today. And Soon after that, in a year, I was offered this position in Victoria as the executive director, and my mentors and my supervisors supported me taking up that role early, and I've been here for the last 2.5 years.
Wow, that's very inspiring to know, Dr. Rex, that the way you have taken the journey from the days of MBBS to reach the current position. Wow, wonderful. Right. So now, with this journey, what has been one of the challenge which you could share with us?
I think it's been changing places because I was very perseverant that I wanted to get to some place at some point of time, and so I was very positive that at the right time I'd make the right move, which means I traveled a lot. From the time I've come to Australia in 2012, I've moved 3 states in so many years. So I first started my career in Sydney. I moved to Perth, moved back to Sydney for a year, and then now I'm in Victoria. So I've done that travel east and west. So um, I think it's important to be especially early in your career, be very flexible, because opportunities knock on your door every time, and you have to grasp on the right opportunity. Um, in terms of other challenges, look, initially I would say challenges, but now it's become a science. So I guess disciplining senior clinicians when things are not going right, working with people who are twice my age, um, or thrice my age sometimes, not thrice my age, probably twice, 2.5 times my age, working with them to have a transition to retirement, um, making sure that they are mindful and they have insight that the community perception is now on them, that they are aging, and they may not be as efficient as they could have been, and that those are difficult conversations any given day. um, and difficult conversations with patients and patients family when families when things don't go wrong. And that's the role I take forwardly and very positively, because obviously over time I've got adequate training in having those conversations in a sensitive and sensible manner. um, but as I said, every day is very different. You might get up to 200 emails a day, and there might be 5 challenges to sort out, and you just have to, I guess, be quite, just as you do triage in ED. You see the most difficult or the uh, most important thing that you need to sort out first. That takes priority, and then you clear your load as you come down. So it's there are challenges, and as I say, healthcare, the money is not infinite, which means we have to find a balance of providing the right care to the right patient at the right time, and it should be of quality, and that means we've got to provide the same care to everyone. And so that becomes a challenge sometimes, especially when you're out of the city and you're not close to facilities. Your transfer takes a lot of time for critical patients, and then outcomes are not really great. So these are the challenges that as an administrator I face. But again, once you're in the role for a few years, you'd learn that every aspect of health management is a science, and there's a methodological process to it.
Right. Wonderful. So now looking into, no, we looked into the challenges. So what has been the best part for part of taking this specialty as a career for you?
I think the enjoyment that you've done something good, then
Mhm.
you go into a hospital, you go into organization and leave it in a better place than what it was. um, that might be in performance, in that might be in patient care, patient outcomes, or new technology, or a new service that you've started. And and I think the gratitude that the working team. So when you're a leader and a chief medical officer or a director in any which way, the team that you work with, they always acknowledge that it's because of that person that we've today have this service that's up and running. And then the broader attribute of the population, and sooner or later, in smaller communities, people, everyone knows everyone, because you meet them in the market, you meet them at the mall, they identify you as that person they saw on paper who brought this service to the community. And so I guess it's that good feeling when you come home and say, okay, wow, today we had a good day. We started a new service, or today, we had X number of patients come through our emergency department, and everybody were treated well, and they were well managed, and the team's doing a great job. So it just reflects on you as the leader and the team that you're leading. If we are able to build relationships and work really collegiately and as real good friends and colleagues, um, that's the happiness that a medical administrator gets at the end of the day. So it's very rewarding, and it fills you with a sense of pride.
Right. Got that. So now we are almost at the end of the discussion, and so now we'd like to know what would be your guidance for the students who would be inclined to take hospital administration as the specialty.
I think don't be afraid. I think my message to younger students is don't be afraid to take a road that's less traveled. Medical administration, people don't get into it because there's a fear of the unknown. They do not know at MBBS, they just have no idea of this big field that can bring a massive difference to the lives of people. And as I started my conversation, I said a doctor might treat 5 patients a day, but an administrator would impact hundreds of lives by just writing a good policy or by writing a good protocol. So that's the beauty of the specialty, and it's about taking those risks and meet with stakeholders. I would advise them to spend some time with somebody in the public or private sector who's in the role, and speak with them, find out more about their lives, find out more of their career trajectories, and as I said, take the road less traveled, but persevere to it. Make sure you don't leave it halfway. You've got to come at the end of it and climb the ladder in healthcare management. And as I said, the opportunities, there's multiple opportunities. There's going to be upcoming opportunities because of the way technology has changed over the last few years. It's just being mindful and looking for those positions out there, and then putting your best foot forward, because clinical knowledge, or at the end of MBBS, I think everybody has got a good clinical sound base knowledge that they can apply to any role in medical administration.
Wow, got that. And no, it's been a great pleasure to have you today, Dr. Rex, and it's very inspiring to see the journey which you have taken. And the trajectory from the days from MBBS to traveling abroad and being in the executive director position there, and helping the people of that country is really inspiring to know from you. And I know many of you also have many of the students from India to get the transition from India to Australia. So you're doing a great service there too. So thank you so much, Dr. Rex, for being here today. And I think it would really add a lot of value for the lakhs of students who are going to watch this program. Thank you, Dr. Rex.
Thank you very much, Sajjan, for having me. Thank you. Bye for now.
Bye.
Isn't this valuable to know the career pathway of a specialist? Hear from experiences of 50 plus consultant doctors from across India. Get an insight into 22 plus medical specialties and make an informed career decision which will shape your future. Join India's first of a kind online medical specialty summit exclusively designed for medical students. Visit our website drsajjanacademy.com to know more. Don't miss out on this golden opportunity.